worked to get the funds and worked with the government, with Governor Ogilvie, he's going to tell you about all of this, to acquire Fults and then dedicate it subsequently as a nature preserve. So he is here to tell the early story, and we're super excited about that. So as I said, about 20 minutes afterwards, we're going to try to get everyone's attention again with another bird call. And you can either go ahead and listen to John, get on the shuttle. John will repeat his story later if you end up being one of the early groups going up on the hill. He will repeat it later when people come back down the hill. Okay, so next I wanted to mention that we have lots of displays and materials here today lining this wall, and a self-repeating slideshow back here, compliments of former Heritage Biologist Marty Kemper. So we have things to look at, so we encourage you to spend lots of time. There's lots of early photos of Fults here and other things. Okay, so then next I wanted to mention that the bathrooms are right over here in case anybody didn't know. We're so lucky to have a nature event where we actually have indoor bathrooms. Kind of exciting. Also, we have recycling bins in the back. All of us on the committee pulling this event together today, we really hated using single-use plastic drinks, but to stay safe from COVID, we felt like it was important. So please make sure you recycle those plastic bottles when you're done with them. Next, I want to mention that it was advertised for people who do the entire hike at Fults that you would today receive a patch that is a Bluffs hiking crew out of breath patch. And we were super excited about this. And I want to first thank Mike and Joanne Fricke, especially because they made a personal donation of these patches for everybody to have today that completes that nice long hike up there. However, we're all in a pandemic era, right? So unfortunately, even though they were ordered a month and a half ago, and the delivery date was 2 weeks ago, it kept getting pushed back, and then Joanne learned yesterday that they're in Louisville, Kentucky right now, and they will be here Monday morning. So we're really sorry about that because it was going to be a fun extra bonus today. But if you complete the hike, we will have other opportunities to get you a patch. So don't be discouraged. They will still be here. And again, we thank Mike and Joanne for purchasing and contributing to the event today with that. So last I want to say we're trying to keep this a COVID-safe event. I know it feels like we're kind of have 1 foot in normalcy and 1 foot not, but we still do have a lot of cases in Southern Illinois here. We worked really hard when we finally decided we thought we could put this on safely to have this because it's all in an open air pavilion and up on the preserve. But, you know, everybody still just be careful with your social distancing. I saw about 10 people today shake hands. Don't shake hands, do the elbow bump, okay? Much safer right now, much safer. And so then lastly, we will ask you please if you have a mask with you, and if not, we have some. If you don't mind, just for the 3-minute ride to Fults, please just put a mask on inside the shuttle because you'll be sitting close to people. Just 3 minutes of a sacrifice, and then you'll be safe and you can take it off when you get back to the preserve and up the hill. So, and we've got, we're going to have, Joanne is going to serve the cake, and that way we'll sort of limit our everybody touching all kinds of common things. So I think we've got everything fairly safe here today, so everybody just be mindful of that we're still in a pandemic. We have a sign-up sheet here and would love to have everybody sign up. If you would like to have information emailed to you about future things that are going to be talked about today in terms of volunteer events related to Fults and other events, definitely also put your email. If you don't want to receive emails, you can just leave your email off and just sign your name. Okay, I think I have covered all of the housekeeping things here. Let me just make sure. Any questions from anybody about that stuff? Okay, I'm going to say a few comments before we introduce the first speaker. So, 66 years ago today, well, not today, 66 years ago, I should say, Dr. Robert Evers from the Illinois Natural History Survey did the most comprehensive and still to date the best publication that we have on hill prairies of Illinois. And Fults is included in here as one of the prairies that he visited during his, I guess, about 4-year study before he published this in the late 1940s and early 1950s. And in fact, the very last visit he did for this study to Fults was in August of 1951. So 70 years ago today, you guys. I mean, it's hard to even wrap our minds around that. And if you want a glimpse of what Fults looked like back at that time, I photocopied, he included a copy of the picture in here from Fults, and I included some photocopies that I took out of the book and put them on the table over here. So you can go read what he wrote in the book and a picture that he took kind of not too far from this vantage point looking up at Fults. It's pretty interesting and eye-opening. So 8 years after this publication, the Illinois Nature Preserves Commission, who I work for, was created in 1963 as the first of its kind in the United States to protect important, special, and ecologically sensitive natural areas. And 7 years after that, Fults was dedicated as the 30th nature preserve in Illinois, the first hill prairie protected in Illinois, right there in your county of Monroe, right here, and the first protected site in Monroe County. And you're going to hear a lot more about this again from John Schwegman in a little bit. Today we have 19 protected sites, land and water reserves and nature preserves in Monroe County, and 11 of those are in this bluff corridor and protect other hill prairies. Fults is probably, I don't know if we have the exact acreage on this, but I believe that it is the top or one of the top 2 amount of acreage protected in terms of a nature preserve that is protecting hill prairie. So it's a very, very large hill prairie complex as hill prairies go. The Fults that we all see and love today is not here by accident. It is due to the imaginings, the vision, the persuasion, the deliberate action, the sweat, and the toil of many, many people. I'm pointing to a bunch of you in here, and more, past and present. Starting with Dr. Robert Evers in the 1940s and 50s, continuing on with John Schwegman, and many, many more people beyond that. So we have several of these people speaking today here at the ceremony and up on the hill. We also have more people here today that are speaking, that are not speaking, that were involved with Fults. We have people here, botanists, we have researchers that have done insect research, plant research, tree data. To give you one quick example, I just grabbed this out of my file cabinet this morning. See this thick mass of paper? This is about 50 years of research permits for Fults. So we know a lot about this site, and we can always learn more, and we still always are learning more, but we have had, this site has been a beloved place for scientists to come and learn more about this very rare community. We also have a lot of volunteers here today, and volunteers have played a major, major role with Fults and other sites in Monroe County, and we're hoping that there will be more. And then last, we have people here today who just plain love Fults, right? I think we all agree, whether we play an official formal role or not, we all love Fults. So we celebrate all of you today. So since the 1955 publication of the Hill Prairies of Illinois, many of the prairies in this book are gone. This is the truth, they're gone. Today we have about 600 acres, and let me repeat that word, 600 acres, that's about a section of land. 600 acres of hill prairie left in Illinois. This is an extremely, extremely rare community. But while we have more work to do to save the remaining unprotected hill prairies, Fults sits perched as our shining example of why our intentions and our efforts do matter. And so along with other existing hill prairies, Fults will need more torch carriers in the future. and I hope that many of you here today will be among those. All right, so I'm going to introduce our first speaker here, but I wanted to just quickly recognize that I'm pleased that we have 3 of our 9 Illinois Nature Preserves Commission commissioners here today. Penn Dalbach, and I don't know, oh no, Bill's not gonna, okay. We have 2, sorry. And Charles Ruffner, but I don't know where he is. Where are you, Charles? Charles Ruffner. So I'm sorry to announce that Bill McLean, our 3rd commissioner, who is also going to be a speaker today, is not going to be able to be here. We just learned last night that he unfortunately has had a COVID exposure to his grandkids that have COVID. And so he, out of an abundance of caution, he didn't want to come with any risk that he might bring the virus to somebody here. And we're super bummed about that because he's not only a commissioner, but he has done extensive research as our former state botanist in DNR and state natural areas program manager and heritage biologist. He has been a writer and done a lot of research and has even published papers about historic fires at Fults in the 1940s and 50s. So we would encourage you to look up some of his articles, and I'm sorry that he won't be here today. And the other, is Dennis Knobloch here? Okay, so I wanted to mention, we have 1 county commissioner here today from Monroe County, which is Vicki Korber over here. And I appreciate very much that she was able to come today. I think Dennis said that he might be here, and maybe he'll be here a little bit later, Dennis Knobloch. The county actually also owns a nature preserve, which is north of here, the Eagle Cliff Prairie up by Miles Cemetery. And so the county commissioners, I know, are very interested and invested in hill prairie conservation here in their county. So we appreciate the county being here today too, and so thanks, Vicki. Okay, I want to introduce Chris Young. He came down all the way from Springfield to be here with us today, and he is the director of the Office of Resource Conservation in the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Just in case anyone here doesn't know, Fults is owned. It is a dedicated nature preserve, and it is owned by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. So Chris is over the divisions of fisheries, forestry, wildlife, natural heritage, private lands, and probably more. I think that's it. So he's here to give a few words today for our Fults celebration. So please welcome Chris Young.
Thanks, everybody. Debbie, you covered it pretty well. Thanks. I just want to say how grateful I am to be here with all of you. I mean, looking around and seeing all these people who care about our natural world, our plants, our animals, our insects, our birds, all of the things that make Illinois special and not like any other place on earth, is really important to me. And seeing all of you here gives me hope for the future. A lot of us who've been around for a while will be moving on in the not too near future and handing that torch over to the next generation. Fortunately, I know with some of our young staff who are here today from DNR, both from Natural Heritage Department Division, and also we have land management who works on our hill prairies, our nature preserve staff who are DNR employees that are dedicated to the work of the commission, plus all of the enthusiastic landowners and volunteer groups, concerned citizens, all the people that pull together to care for these places and love them and share how important they are with the public. That really gives me a lot of hope for the future. One thing that's really important about today is just reconnecting again. Sometimes I almost forget how much I miss other people until I get to events like this, and it's almost overwhelming, that feeling of like I haven't seen people in a year and a half, and being able to say hi and connect with all of you again, and then to meet some new people too and see some of the new folks who are here to help us take our nature preserve system into the future. That's just fantastic. 50 years is a long time to be a nature preserve, but when you think about humans have been living in Illinois for probably 10,000 years or more, it seems like a pretty short time So as all of us sort of get ready to hand off to that next generation, these events are just so important because we get here to share our love for these places, we share information, we reinvigorate lifelong friendships and partnerships, and those are the things that are going to protect these places for the next 50 years and hopefully well beyond that. So thank you all for being here and for inviting me. And I have not been to Fults. I love hill prairies. I love to explore the hill prairies in central Illinois, but for some reason I just haven't been to Fults, and I'm dying to take the hike up today.
Yay.
So thank you all very much. It's good to be here.
Thanks a lot, Chris. I'm so excited that this is your inaugural visit to Fults. This is great. Okay, so next I want to introduce Phil Borisdorf. He is the newer Heritage Biologist here for Fults, doing the day-to-day management of Fults. And Phil has been here just basically at 3 years in this job in southwestern Illinois. So he obviously manages other sites like Vogelpol and Knobloch Woods and all kinds of other sites here in southwest Illinois. And we're super excited to have him. I personally am super excited to have him because he's young. Young. We like young people. Yay.
Don't feel so young. Thanks, everybody. I want to quickly recognize the efforts of Debbie, the Friends of the Illinois Nature Preserves Commission, Amy, Travis, and Mike and Joanne, and the other local conservationists who planned and coordinated this event right here. So also, thank you, Chris, for making the trip down. I'm really excited to hear that you're going to get to visit Fults for the first time. And I want to reinforce why we're all here today. Firstly, we're here to honor 50 years of protection for Fults Hill Prairie Nature Preserve within the Illinois Nature Preserve system. We are certainly here to celebrate the natural resources and beauty the site possesses and the enjoyment it provides for people. But we are also here to celebrate all the people through the years that have been involved in this preserve. In 50 years, there have been many Nature Preserve Commission and IDNR staff, conservationists, researchers, volunteers, contractors who do some of the hardest labor on the site, and visitors that have been a part of this site. As for the natural value of Fults Hill Prairie Nature Preserve, it hosts rare and unique natural communities, an incredible amount of biodiversity, and there are plant and animal species that are only found in this part of Illinois. The site is home to state-threatened and endangered species, and it contains numerous species considered species in greatest need of conservation, as identified by the Illinois Wildlife Action Plan. Also within that Illinois Wildlife Action Plan, Fults falls within what is known as the Hill Prairie Corridor, a conservation opportunity area. What this means is that this area is recognized as an area possessing valuable natural resources worthy of extra focused conservation efforts. So previously, I mentioned that part of this celebration is about people, and I just mentioned the importance of the resource. A very special thing about today is that you get to hear from several people that have been involved in resource management at Fults Hill Prairie Nature Preserve. We've got an amazing group of people that are past and present IDNR and INPC employees who will be talking about an incredible range of topics related to this wonderful site. So as Debbie mentioned, you'll be hearing from John Schwegman, who's the retired state botanist, who will be talking about the history and acquisition of this site. Debbie will stick around for a little while to talk about the importance of protection within the nature preserves system. Unfortunately, we just learned that Bill McLean will not be able to be here. Like Debbie said, he was going to talk about historic fire and also all the change that he witnessed to these hill prairies through time. On the field trip, you'll hear from, and I hope you guys will put your hand up, Andrew West, right there. Andy is a former natural heritage biologist from a time when there were so few biologists, he literally covered an entire southern third of the state of Illinois. Andy remains active as the owner of a private ecological contractor and has had a lot of involvement with this site. He'll be on the Hill Prairies to talk about the unique and resource-rich Illinois Ozarks that we know this natural division as. Randy Nybor. Randy, where are you? There's Randy. Randy is a former IDNR natural heritage biologist and regional administrator, and currently is employed by the Illinois Natural History Survey, and he's the guy who did the original Illinois Natural Areas Inventory Assessment back in the 1970s, and was involved more recently in the INAI update. He'll be speaking about those efforts and everything they did there to evaluate the site. All right, Martin Kemper, right there. Marty is a retired IDNR natural heritage biologist who previously was the DHB for Fults and this area. Marty, you are still very active in conservation, botany, and your efforts with Prairie Rivers Network. And you're also a guy I go to when I have questions. Marty will be up on the top of Horseshoe Prairie to tell you guys about Hill Prairie flora. Mark Phipps, right there. Mark is still employed as an IDNR natural heritage biologist. He's my counterpart to the north. But after Marty retired, Mark covered this area and the site and did a lot at it while he was covering an enormous area. Mark, you currently work out of Pierre Marquette State Park, but you love to come back here to burn at Fults. Mark will be talking about forest and woodland restoration up on the hill. Let's see here. There's some people that had incredible amounts of involvement in this site that couldn't be here today, unfortunately. Diane Tessick is a former natural heritage biologist for this area. She still works for IDNR up in the Chicago area, but due to some health issues, she couldn't be here today. Scott Ballard, a lot of you guys know Scott. He's also a former natural heritage biologist who currently works as our endangered species recovery specialist. He couldn't be here today. And lastly, Judy Faulkner Dempsey is a retired natural areas preservation specialist that also unfortunately couldn't be here today.
Ed Anderson.
And Ed Anderson, I forgot about Ed. Yep, retired natural heritage biologist. So also just want to mention that I will also be present up on top of the hill, and I'll be talking about some of the recent restoration efforts that have been going on here at the site. And just again, thanks everybody who came here today to make this celebration special. So I'm going to hand it over to Penn.
Okay, next I'm going to introduce Penn Dalbach. She's a local, very, very local, Fults, right near Fults here, resident, a longtime resident of Monroe County. And many of you probably know Penn because her and her husband were involved in organizing Clifftop and doing many, many conservation efforts up and down the bluffs here. And she is currently working, or not working, but serving as a, working and serving as a Illinois Nature Preserves Commission commissioner. And which we have 9 commissioners, of which are appointed to 2 3-year terms. Supposedly. She's been serving for a good, and we're glad to have her. We're super excited to have someone on the Nature Preserves Commission from our area, because they're from all over the state, and we actually have someone from Monroe County here. So I will turn that over to Penn.
First, it is so wonderful to be out in the open and socialize with so many people. COVID has been difficult for everybody, so this is a great and grand celebration. Well, Debbie has mentioned that there are 9 commissioners working on the Illinois Nature Preserves Commission. Now, we do work, but every one of us is a volunteer. And today, I want to talk a little bit about volunteering, specifically at Fults, but also at a few other sites. Fults, as Phil and Debbie and Chris have said, and as all of you know, takes a great deal of care and effort and love. And in point of fact, we know from research and some of the very early explorers' accounts that the first peoples on this landscape were taking care of Fults. Prescribed fire was occurring. And it's one of the traditions that has been revived and revitalized to keep hill prairies and other prairies fully functioning. In our area, groups of volunteers have helped IDNR and INPC manage and steward this site and numerous other sites. Over the last 3 decades, and I'd like people to wave as I mention the group you're most dedicated with, Clifftop, Salt Lake Point Stewardship Committee, raise your hand, Joanne, and Friends of Stemler Cave Woods. And you should be raising your hand too, because in actuality, all of these groups would come together and coalesce and help at all of our sites as their time and efforts would allow. They've worked on invasive species, on the restoration of hill prairies, and conducting and assisting with prescribed burns. They've also been augmented by additional volunteers, like student groups from SEMO's biology department, as well as many volunteers through University of Illinois Extension Service Master Naturalist Group. And I think we've got some Master Naturalists here with us today. Yay! Now, Diane Wood of SEMO is one of many people who also has continued to conduct important scientific research here. And that lets us know more about these sites. But I also need to mention Commissioner McLean and Martin Kemper as volunteers conducted studies on what we've referred to for a long time as limestone glades. And their research has led to a new understanding and a better appropriate name for these areas of xeric limestone prairies. It's important work and it's ongoing. Commissioner Ruffner and Commissioner McLean are putting the final edits to a long work on the effect of fire on landscapes. So research has continued to be an integral part of this. Bob Weck and Hugh Gilbert continue to monitor and do herpetological studies in this area and at other sites in the corridor. Now, for me, volunteering at Fults meant a couple of different things. It meant Martin Kemper hanging a line on a steep slope so that we could rappel up and then rappel down to do some glade clearing. A kind of extreme sport that comes from cutting brush and watching a fellow volunteer who just loved to do this literally bounce herself on a brush pile to buck it down. And Tish was a tiny little woman, but damn, could she crush brush. But it also means other things to me. An almost hypnotic calmness from gathering prairie grass on a beautiful fall day, a little cooler than this one. Of course, that hypnotic calmness was then followed by 10 days of torture from chigger bites. But it was Martin and other IDNR and INPC people who said, well, you should have put on some sulfur powder to prevent the chiggers from biting. And then they told me, ticks can kill you. Chiggers will make you wish they had. So my chigger bites were an experience that fortunately was a one-off because I quickly invested in sulfur powder. But I also want to mention what volunteering can lead to. And what happened one afternoon when we were up at Fults, sitting on a rock, having a drink of water and some lunch, was we started talking. And I don't remember if it was Debbie or Martin, but they said, you know, the Illinois Wildlife Action Plan, which was first issued in 2005 to national acclaim for its completeness and thoroughness, that plan called for the formation of a Blufflands Protection Group. And as we talked, a number of us kind of coalesced around the idea of organizing. Figuring, well, if we're organized, we could do more stuff. We could do outreach events and let more people know about these extremely vital lands. We could do more stewardship. We could work together to train and learn how to do things better. And that was the foundation of Clifftop. Over the years, Clifftop also became what's known as a conservation land trust. And I am privately celebrating another anniversary today, which is the almost to the date 10-year anniversary of the dedication and opening of White Rock Nature Preserve, another one of our wonderful sites. And Clifftop has continued. They now own 3 nature preserves and a land and water reserve. They continue to do a lot of outreach events, and they perform tremendous hours of on-the-ground stewarding, boots on the ground, stewarding, and hard work for places like Fults. Today, we're also going to be celebrating additional volunteerism and a new partnership with the recently founded Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves. This is a very exciting time because we have with us today contractors, volunteers, IDNR folks, INPC people, and every one of these people are a link in a long chain of invaluable work that is now fully intergenerational. And we're all working to care for these truly vital lands. So I thank all of you.
Okay, that was awesome, Penn. Very, very good
from the
words.
heart.
Intergenerational, I like that. This is like, you guys get this theme that's going on today? Past, present, future, intergenerational. We're all part of this. Okay, and I am very excited to introduce our next speaker that is also part of this in the present and future. See, intergenerational. So I'm going to let her tell you more about it, but I'm going to just mention that we have for a long time needed to have statewide presence with the Illinois Nature Preserve system in terms of advocacy. Friends in particular, Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves system. And because our system now has, are you going to talk about this? No.
Go ahead.
We have almost 800 sites in our Nature Preserve, Land and Water Reserve, and Landmark program. And it has grown very successfully, but we need to have bigger presences. And so, during a crazy time of a pandemic, we had a brand new Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves Commission group formed. And they've hit the ground running so well that they actually already have an executive director and a paid staff person here in Southern Illinois. And so I am so pleased to introduce Amy Dahl today, who is the first executive director of the Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves Commission. She's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Debbie. I fully recognize that there are only a couple more of us that are standing between all of you and cake and a hill, so I will keep my remarks brief. I do want to thank Debbie and Phil and Joanne and Mike. We had a great time planning this event, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's so exciting to see it come to fruition with so many of you here. So I also want to introduce just a couple other people. So Travis is our field rep, field organizer for Southern Illinois, and so you will all be seeing a lot of Katie Kucera is standing next to him. She's our admin manager and volunteer extraordinaire, and is really excited to be here today. And then Matt Evans is standing back here. He is one of our founding board members of Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves, and so he's excited to be here as well today. So one more friend of Illinois Nature Preserve, not a paid staff, but somebody I'm going to point out because it might embarrass her, but my mom is also a friend of Illinois Nature Preserves because when I live in DeKalb, but when I get the pleasure of visiting sites in Southern Illinois and being here in Monroe County, she lives in Bond County, and I get to stay at her house, and frequently she does my laundry for me when I'm there. One friend of Illinois Nature Preserves who also wasn't able to be here today because he lives in Georgia is artist Philip Juris. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because he's an artist who has painted landscape scenes at many of our beautiful and wonderful Illinois nature preserves. His artwork was on display at the Chicago Botanic Garden this summer, but he's back home in Georgia, and he wasn't able to be here today, but he did send us some books because one of the places he painted was Fults Hill Prairie Nature Preserve, and he was pretty disappointed that he wasn't able to be here today. But if you get a chance, make sure you stop and take a look at what he's done. Because part of what he's done is demonstrate that vision that we all have and that we have Friends of Illinois Nature Preserve have, is that we want the people of Illinois to really take pride in the natural beauty that we have here. And I think I've had conversations with some of you here today and with many others throughout the state that we have some really amazing resources here in Illinois, and that I think they don't get celebrated nearly enough. And I think that is part of the vision of Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves, that all Illinoisans would take pride in our natural beauty and our natural resources. We have swamps, we have beaches, we have hill prairies, we have cliffs, we have wetlands. I think we have such an amazing, diverse ecological systems that we need to celebrate those throughout the state. So one more thing that, just to give a little bit about who we are at Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves, is to talk about some of our vision. And some of our vision is that connecting people to the land is how we ensure the future of conservation in Illinois. The relationship between people and nature and the land is invaluable. That's how we continue the future of conservation. It's how we make sure that our lands here in Illinois and these natural resources continue to get protected, so that we're celebrating Fults again in 50 years and 100 years and 1,000 years. Maybe not us, but the future. So to that end, we also believe that there's a work, learn, lead approach to volunteer stewardship, and I think we've talked about it so much today about the value of these partnerships between paid staff, contractors, and volunteers, people who come and learn how to care for the land. And that is an incredibly valuable valuable approach. You've seen it work in many places, and we are trying to make that happen throughout the state at many nature preserves and land and water reserves. One quick announcement and plug about that, on November 6th, we hope that we'll see many of you back here. We are really excited to partner with Phil and IDNR to have an event on November 6th to start building a community of volunteers that will focus at Fults. I have to wait for the train. Debbie ordered me to.
Yes, that's right. I forgot to say, we're waiting when the trains come by. I didn't mention that in my housekeeping, darn it.
I remembered.
So no awkwardness, we're just gonna wait for a second.
Talk amongst yourselves. I should have given them a question. Should have given them a question, isn't it? Talk amongst yourselves.
That would be good. That's all right.
We might have to burn this one.
I will. I will think of another one. Dang, Amy, you left out your one speaker that gets the train, right? I was like,
Thank goodness I saw your email. Oh, I should have kept it shorter.
See, I missed that in my own notes, my housekeeping notes.
Glad I remembered. I can't talk over this.
Of course, it's a 10-mile train, right? Jeez. The drawback to the start, we're going, which otherwise is perfect.
Either one of you guys. It's okay, I can review my notes. What did I miss?
I do want to say one thing at the end too, because I realized something else I forgot in housekeeping notes about the memory boards. So yeah, so I can do that, that's fine. And I'll just wrap it up.
Hey, all right, we're back. This is the end. Are you gonna whistle or should I just yell and get it back? I'll get it back. I think. Okay. All right. Do you have another bird call? Okay. Sorry for that awkward interruption. So as I was saying, on November 6th, we will have an event here at Fults. We have flyers. We're really excited to partner and to start thinking about, as Debbie and Penn have talked about developing volunteers that are ready to carry the torch and to learn how to care for these hill prairies and to expand that to hill prairies throughout Monroe County. And so we hope that we will see many of you back here. If you aren't coming, we hope that you will consider sharing the word with people who might be interested and who would love to learn to care for these and these precious resources that we have. So that's all I had to say, and I had to wait for that 10-mile train to wrap that up first. But all right, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you so much, Amy. Yes, we're very excited with having the Friends Group organized, and There's been a lot of collaboration going on because we have volunteer groups here and there, but this is going to be a new opportunity for the Nature Preserves Commission statewide to engage additional people, and we are really happy. And the 2021 is the perfect time for this organization to arise in Illinois. Okay, so I wanted to next introduce Chris Collins, who is the site superintendent of the St. Genevieve, which is fairly new. Some of you may not even be aware of this yet. The St. Genevieve, right across the river, National Historic Park with the National Park Service. So you're going, some of you may be going, why is a person from the National Park Service here today? Well, this is the big surprise for those of you that don't realize this. Fults is not just statewide significant, but it is actually a national natural landmark with the National Park Service. One of, I think, only about 18 in Illinois. So we are thrilled that we have someone from the National Park Service here to speak about the significance from their perspective of Fults. And so I will introduce Chris.
I just want to say thank you to the organizers of the event today, especially Debbie, for involving the National Park Service in this event. I'm just thrilled to be here. I am serving as a proxy. Our National Landmarks Program Coordinator out of our regional office in Omaha is Leo Acosta. He very much wanted to be here today, but unfortunately, due to the changing pandemic conditions and our very strict travel restrictions within the agency, he could not be. So he asked that I come here today. And I'm super, super excited and happy to be here because I spend all of my days dealing more in the NH, the historic landmarks world. So to have the opportunity to work in or spend some time learning a little more about the natural landmarks world is really fun for me. And I think the train maybe did not get the timing because my office is right next to the train tracks in St. Gen, and I frequently have to put myself on mute and Zoom calls and wait for the train to pass with that awkward silence staring at the webcam until that's over. So, sorry Amy, thank you for taking one for the team. So, for those of you who don't know, the National Natural Landmarks Program, or NNL, recognizes and encourages the conservation and understanding of outstanding examples of natural history in the U.S. It is the only national program that identifies and recognizes the best examples of biological and geological features in both public and private ownership. And that's really interesting because the National Park Service does not own the majority of NNL sites. Instead, we try to work in partnership with the owners so that we can help preserve those sites and provide for the public education of such natural and outstanding areas such as Fults Hills. This undisturbed prairie with its associated plant diversity is incredibly rare. The dramatic geology spared the site from grazing and from the plow. The geology of the river bluff created a unique environment where a drier plant community was able to persist and thrive. And so since 1986, the site owners, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, local stakeholders and stewards, volunteers like all of you here today, have been working with the National Park Service NNL program to preserve and recognize this outstanding natural area. It is one of only 18 in the entire state of Illinois. And so I will keep this short and sweet and say congratulations to over 50 years and congratulations for over 35 years now of NNL partnership with the National Park Service at this very important site. And thank you again for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, that concludes the ceremony. I did want to mention that I forgot one other housekeeping thing besides mentioning what we would do if a train came by. Sorry about that, Amy. To make it less awkward for us. But also today, we didn't want this to just be a one-way people talking to you. We want you to interact with us as well because this Fults belongs to everybody here today. So we brought some poster boards with pens and some cork boards if anybody has a memory of Fults or a favorite thing about Fults that you want to share, a photo you might have brought. We did advertise this. If you brought any photos, please share them, write them on our board for us to keep about this day, a day 25 years ago, a day 50 years ago. John, you should write a memory on the board about something unique about Fults that nobody else would know about. So we would encourage you to definitely participate in our memory board activities today. So with that, we're going to have cake. I see that people are already with their masks on safely cutting and serving that really yummy cake. And go ahead and have some cake, mingle, and I will do another bird call in about 15 to 20 minutes to start some other activities. Okay, and thank you everybody again for coming.